Okay, I'd like to call to order the regular meeting notice for today. Please join me for the Pledge of Allegiance. Ready, begin.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Roll call, please.
Commissioner Tam,
Present.
Commissioner Sai is not here. Commissioner Wu,
Present.
Vice Chair Solon, present, and Chair Yen.
Present. So the agenda is posted 72 hours prior to each meeting at the following location: City Hall, the Crowell Public Library, and the Stoneman Building. The agenda is also posted on the city's website. The city welcomes public input. At this time, the public may address the Recreation Commission, bless you, on items that are not on the agenda. Pursuant to state law, the Recreation Commission may not discuss or take action on issues not on the meeting agenda. To ensure that everyone, including those joining us remotely, are able to hear all speakers clearly, please speak directly into a microphone. I would now like to ask Management Analyst Shiganaga to explain how public comment will work.
Thank you. For each item on the agenda, there will be time for public comment. We'll accept comments in 3 ways. First, we will take in-person comments for each item. Please fill out a speaker card and turn it in to me if you wish to speak on an item. We will then ask for comments from our Zoom participants when we ask for public comments via Zoom. There are 2 ways you can let us know you would like to speak. First, you can use the raise hand feature, which is a button that's found by clicking on participants and then clicking on raise hand on the bottom right side of the screen. Please do not use this feature until we have asked for public comment, or else we may not see it or know which item you are asking to speak on. As a second option, you can send a message using the chat box saying you would like to speak on this particular agenda item. Comments will only be accepted until the end of the public comment period for that item. Finally, I will then read into the record any public comments received by email for that particular item. Due to technical limitations associated with gathering, printing, and sorting emailed public comment, the city has instituted a 3 p.m. cutoff the day of a Recreation Commission meeting for emailed public comments. This is to ensure there is sufficient time to gather and present the emailed comments at the meeting. Any comments received after 3 p.m. the day of the meeting will be included in the public comment record, but will not be read at the meeting. Thank you.
Does anyone here wish to speak at this time? If so, please state your name and address for the record. I don't see anyone here in the room. Do we have any public comment requests submitted electronically?
We do not.
Actually, I do have, I guess, the commissioner report, if that's the right time to add to it.
That's coming up next.
Okay.
And next means right away, like as in moving on to commissioner reports. Do any commissioners have anything to report at this time? And I see a hand raised. Commissioner Tam?
All right, so I just have one thing to report. A resident informed me that on Fridays, there's a large dog walking group that has unleashed dogs, approximately 12 plus dogs on Fridays, and they actually gave me a picture of it. And I was just wondering, in terms of measures to ensure the safety of the people at Lacey Park, how do we ensure that the dogs remain leashed while they're in the park?
I can take that question. So it is a challenge. If there is staff that is present, they will advise the dog owner that the dogs have to be on a leash. There's not a lot of cooperation, then code enforcement or PD will get called and they have to go address the situation. That's typically the way that's addressed. But as you know, there isn't necessarily police officers that are stationed at the park to really handle that, and code enforcement goes around doing other business as well. So it does take a while for somebody to respond, but the initial or the first step is the park staff that see it happening will address it with the dog owner.
Commissioner Tam, if you'd like to forward that photo
Yes,
and
no
any
problem.
other information, we will certainly pass it along to our park staff and the Parks and Public Works Director so they can, and since you do have it narrowed down to Fridays, that's good. They can be,
Yes.
on the lookout and then follow the protocol that they do follow to hold people accountable to the rules and guidelines of park usage.
Okay, and I'm gonna just clarify, it is a policy. You cannot have dogs unleashed at Lacey Park. That's what I'm aware of.
Correct. Yep, it's posted. Yep.
Okay,
Just a quick insight on that. I know they used to walk on more of the other side by Stoneman and San Marino, and I believe there were so many complaints that they have moved their route, looks like.
But if they are inside the park, we can, and we know approximately when they are. As Eddie stated, we don't have park rangers. We don't have park patrol, every single day. We rely upon the park maintenance staff who are in and around the park to help kind of patrol user groups and users and compliance to the rules and regs. So please, by all means, send it to us and we'll let them know.
okay, will do.
Do we have any other commissioners with the reports? Okay, with no one else, I do want to, I have something to share. So I wanted to share an experience or something I created this past Saturday where I invited some neighbors to have breakfast. So we went to Colonial Kitchen. So it's really just kind of my street in another intersection street. And I also invited a friend over who was as a high school classmate of mine who also has kids in Carver, and just to come and just kind of meet new people. I also invited out council member Calvin Lowe, as well as planning commissioner Shelley Boyle. Shelley Boyle lives on the street behind mine. And it was just really an opportunity to kind of get to know our neighbors better. My street, fortunately, Colares, we do a block party every summer. During COVID, we probably stopped for a couple of years. And it was kind of an extension of that. And I kind of liked having that feeling of just, being able to just call your neighbors, who may or may not have kids in school, and just kind of get together and just kind of talk. And for our Colares block party, we also do a potluck. So it's someone rents a jumper room and someone brings the beer and wine, and everyone does potlucks. So I think that's something that we should continue to encourage and maybe even try out on our own if you have an opportunity. This time around, I was thinking about calling some of my fellow commissioners, but I was like, wasn't quite sure, the two, and what if we start talking about things? So this time around, I didn't do so, but I think it'd be a great idea just to start to get to know each other in that way as well. And I do want to mention that someone on my street makes really amazing brisket, like mouth-watering brisket, like really, really good. So I have to figure out a way to make him smoke some more meat. But I also want to take this opportunity to kind of set a theme for this year. This is a whole new year. Every year we're going to have a new chair. And I think in order to help us kind of guide this year and try to figure out kind of ideas or help us along, just kind of like what we want to do for this year, I want to kind of set a theme. And, we know as our responsibilities as commissioners, we make recommendations to the city council. We also have opportunity to build community consensus for proposals or projects, guiding the implementation of new established programs, assessing the alternatives regarding issues of community concern, and ultimately forwarding recommendation to the council for consideration. You'll notice I took this right from the advisory handbook. But today we also have an opportunity to review the calendar events for 2023. And I propose that we look at opportunities to expand the existing curriculum to incorporate smaller or more intimate events. events. And this could mean recommending to the city council to request staff to create events nearby San Marino businesses like at the San Marino Toy and Bookstore or the coffee shops at Mission District. Or we could even visit nearby cities, like the Santa Anita, nearby venues at cities nearby, like the Santa Anita Racetrack or the Arboretum in Arcadia that have so much history in this community. I've also reached out to members of other commissions to organize events just amongst us, right? Just to we could get to know each other, get to know some of our other commissioners as well. And this is an opportunity for us to continue to build community by socializing with other San Marino residents, volunteering their time on other commissions. And this could also mean like maybe a breakfast or going for a walk or just anything that we could think of. So these are just some ideas that I think as commissioners, we could just do on our own. And without city staff, I don't think we need that, but rather as neighbors and just being part of a community. So that's kind of just what I wanted to share.
I feel like we should clap. That was fantastic.
That was great. I'm waiting for the invite, Chairman.
Yeah, wait till we get to the schedule fees. So there may not be any clapping there. Okay, so the first item on the agenda is the approval of minutes. Are there any questions from the commission?
None.
Nope. Okay, I would like to open up the item for public comment. Since we don't have anyone here, do we have any public comment requests submitted electronically?
We do not.
At this time, I would bring the item back to the commission for discussion. Any comments or questions from the commission? All right, I see no hands raised. Do I have a motion?
I have a motion. Approve the minutes.
So why don't we, Commissioner Tam first, how about Commissioner Wu second? Roll call, please.
Okay. Commissioner Tam,
Aye.
Commissioner Wu,
Aye.
Vice Chair Solon,
Aye.
and Chair Yun.
Aye.
Motion passes.
The second item on the agenda is the Director and Recreation Manager report. Can we please have a presentation from Community Services Director Johnson and Recreation Manager Cobra Ruiz?
Better.
It's pretty good.
Hi, good evening, commissioners. The Director and Rec Manager report begins on page 9 of your packet. Page 9, just was wondering if anybody had any questions or comments about the recap related to Home for the Holidays. We did receive some great recommendations from Commissioner Sy Leslie, who could not be with us today, but she did share some recommendation about an activity that she in dialoguing with maybe some neighbors and friends about considering a snow play area that was part of a former event that was held here in the city, not by the city, but anyway, so any types of those ideas or any questions about the report in general? Hopefully you all had an opportunity to attend. If I saw you there, I can't remember who I saw there. There was 1,100 people, and it was a resounding success for a first-time event. And so we're here to answer any questions and receive any recommendations about improving the event or any feedback you're just dying to give us before I move on. No?
Just for
Nothing?
the Home for the Holidays?
Home for the Holidays, yeah, for that Friday night event. It's first time that we did it. It was the tree lighting, the mayor's ceremony, the mayor's reception. We celebrated the 70-year history of the Holiday House. We had a lot of marketing, and you saw the banners up, the banner program, promoting not just, the event itself, but supporting local businesses. And the house will be deconstructed, I believe, this week. Okay, today's only Monday, so I believe it's going to be deconstructed this week. So, but we're here to answer any questions about that event. Nothing? Nothing?
I don't have
Okay.
questions. I just want to note that I did attend and it was, I did speak to several residents who enjoyed it very much. I know, and I think this has kind of been a common theme across a lot of these events. I think, they continue to bring community, and I know that's, the theme for this year, but I think, and I would say that, these kind of events, large and small, are always a great idea, and I think generate that sense of community that, and that brings together the city in a way that, a lot of other things don't. So.
Yeah, absolutely. As we step back as a staff and we take a critical eye on what we could have done differently, right? We had no idea how many people to expect. We hadn't done an event on a Friday night down at that particular space. And I call it the Triangle Park, because it's actually zoned park space. That little green patch of land is actually zoned park space. This team, we had never, used that space, closed that parking lot, developed an event site map, that kind of stuff. We thought maybe, matter of fact, we had some bets going about how many people would show up. So, and it ran the gamut from 300 to, I think we had one person thought we were going to hit 1,600. So we know we exceeded 1,000, and managing the lines was another comment that Leslie had that we had already had in our notes, that we're going to have to find a way to kind of manage some of those activities and if we're going to leave the event there, which is our goal and our hope. So there's some managing of the site itself. So, we can manage those queues a little bit better around the refreshments and then the Santa's photos and things like that. So, but there were absolutely no complaints. We just heard so many compliments, but we will engineer it a little bit better so it flows better and that we don't have such big lines, or that we can move people through quicker. So, okay, so moving on page 10 now. The San Marino Center update. Hopefully everyone had an opportunity to read the packet that they are putting actual, the construction management group have provided monthly project status updates. So everybody hopefully managed through that link and we're able to actually look on the city's website. I found that very helpful. I actually asked for that to be put on there a couple months ago, and it was nice to kind of look back and see a summary of the activity, and then having watched it live and in person over the last 2 and 3 months. We do have an internal project team that is coordinated now. We will be focusing on the FF&E portion, which is once the contractor, turns the building over to us, the city owns a certain part of getting the building ready for occupancy. And so we have started, we had a kickoff on that for that group, that internal group. It is made up of public works staff, the assistant city manager, myself, the finance director, rec manager, Covarrubias, and the public works manager. So we'll be managing a line item around 600,000 to actually furnish the facility. And if we need, depending on how much, materials and equipment and all that kind of stuff costs, we'll either come in at budget, or we'll see if we have to go back to council for, a little more money based on inflationary costs than, the project was, but, estimated probably 24 months ago. And we all know that, everything's a little more expensive today than it was back when it was the first bid, and those estimates first came in. So a little bit more as we get through, probably the timeline on the San Marino Center is, I think you guys saw the rough completion is, I believe, sometime in May. And then we'll be working on transitioning into occupancy. And then until we really get into the FF&E stuff and any big lead time items, that will eventually determine when the grand opening will be. So the hope would be, fall. So, but it's really too early to tell, but more information on that as the months move along here. I have a correction to, I'm sorry, the future joint meetings with council. Hopefully you were able to read that. In the Recreation Commission, that's about the 2/3 of the way down there. Our September 29th meeting will be a joint meeting with council, and that format will be determined as it gets a little bit closer. So that's kind of an exciting time to manage some recreation priorities with council and the council input and dialogue in partnership with this commission. So, and then the correction is the heading that I entitled City Council Liaisons Assigned to Community Services. So the mayor assigns, the mayor has the task of assigning other council members to liaise to the advisory bodies. And we thought we were going to be getting that list by today, or that was going to be coming and it didn't. And we weren't able to kind of retract that out of this report. So my apologies for that. My badge went flying. And so we do not know who the council liaisons will be for this commission, but there may be an announcement publicly before the next month's meeting, or we'll share it with you in the report next month. And those liaison responsibilities include attending meetings when they can. They are a resource to me should I need to run something past them and get kind of a council direction, and kind of bridge that dialogue on maybe bigger initiatives. So as soon as we know who those people will be, I'll let you know. The calendar of events, as the chairman mentioned, it is on page 15 of your packet. And I just thought we could all look at that for a second. The other calendar you have in front of you was our meeting calendar. Kristen, thank you for providing that. If you guys want to put that, our meeting calendar was on your right in front of you. And now this calendar, a little story about this. This is an internal document. We don't necessarily publish this in this format, like on our website or anything. It's all intermixed in city calendars, and it is publicly facing. All of these dates are publicly facing. It's just not necessarily in this particular format. So we use this to kind of guide all of our major workloads as it relates to the bigger events. Whenever our community partners or stakeholders call us, they'll and say, what does the city have going on so we don't have a conflict, like the district, school district, church, any other major community group. And then this also educates other department heads. It educates the city manager's office. And so far, this is what we have to date. It may change. And if it does change and any new events get added, and the only thing right now that is sort of TBD, which I don't like to publish things that are TBD, but we do have a 4th concert that we're adding this year about midway down in possibly September. Is that correct, Eddie? Yeah, they were very popular. And then we have also been asked by the acting city manager and the mayor to consider one of the concerts to be a international music event that would be in line with the DEI task force requests that came through, and a priority from them to have a more multicultural music event within Lacey Park. So we decided we would take, or it was suggested that we would take one of our existing summer concerts and make sure that we had an international theme to the music. So that came late in our planning cycle, but we're going to pivot and we're going to be able to do it. So that either it could be the third or the fourth concert of this season. So other than that, any questions about the calendar? No, or this event calendar?
I do.
Okay.
But it's more just not procedural, but the page 11 calendar, what's that? Because it looks down there, it says asterisk library division. Does that mean this is the calendar of?
Oh, yeah.
library?
So in this, yeah, thank you. So we provide to you as commissioners within the director's report, upcoming events, January, February. Those are major programming things. There is some correlation. This calendar of events is major events where estimated attendance is going to be like, 500 or more. It takes interdepartment collaboration to administer these events. Think of the calendar, the annual calendar as maybe our bigger events. These that we provide to you here are programming things that might be of interest. For example, on page 11, January, the coming up here on the 21st, we have open house on here for the library. We'd love for all of our commissioners to attend. But because we are anticipating 1,000 to 2,000 people, it did, make the big list, so to speak. So this is programming and events combined within the director's report. Hopefully I'm answering your question a little bit, maybe a shorter forecast, short-term forecast within the director's report. This is a big annual view of big major events in the city.
So the reason why I ask is when I was kind of looking at the different programming that's referenced in page 11, I was like, this is kind of cool, right? Like, I mean, if I would even say hey, I probably should attend a couple of these to enjoy myself, but also just to kind of meet people.
Absolutely. Yep, that's exactly why we provide it. So what's going on. You can always, help us promote them. But if you'd like to show up and proctor something or, just go and represent and be a commissioner.
But if we wanted to, let's say, organize or we come up with some ideas of our own, how would that be reflected on like a separate report, or would you just incorporate it in here? Because I wasn't sure if this is like something that comes out of the library division. Or
Oh, no, we do this. So this is a combined because we are community services, because we manage both the library. And so I give this exact list to the library board as well.
Okay.
So, and in terms of program development, okay, we would take your suggestions throughout the year. We don't have ourselves organized quite yet to be able to do a combined recreation program plan where we have where we get to do some strategic planning with our commissioners.
Right. So
that would be bigger picture visioning for the programs coming up in the future. Our programs are already set for the year because we set them at budget time, and we're getting ready to do that right now.
So if we were to, let's say, engage in the various organizations that we have, like City Club or Rotary or Chinese Club of San Marino, and we could think of ideas of just creating like an event where, those clubs or organizations could help kind of support it, but we would like to put it in the city's plan or calendar. How would we go about doing that, and where would it live then?
Well, you bring it here if you'd like to make that suggestion, and then it's our job as staff to document that. It's public record, and we come and then we would report back to you to say, you had recommended this particular program or event or whatever. We would dialogue about whether we felt like it's redundant, or it's a wonderful idea, or it's already in the works, or do we have the capacity? We are at capacity right now in terms of organizational bandwidth. So it isn't that we can just immediately plan something unless, we've got capacity. Like for example, the DEI task force initiative and the concert. It was deemed that, it was brought to my attention by the acting city manager. And I said, I think we could probably incorporate it already into an event that we already have, we have staffing resources planned. We have an event already planned. We're not adding something new. And so that was a way we could welcome that request, and actually, just because it wasn't planned doesn't mean we can't do it. So, and that's an illustration of how we would acknowledge that and work it into our existing plan for this year. So
So if we were to, so I think where I would like to see, because I think we could, some of us are all part of other organizations, and we could organize an event. But in the future, maybe for next year, I think I'd like a placeholder to say that, we thought of something, we brought it to the commission, but there's, because of the planning that's required, we couldn't include it this year, or we just don't have the resources. And then we could put it on the, memorialize it somewhere to say that,
Yeah.
wow, all this opportunities
Yeah.
that we could have had the city do something, but for the planning, the lack of
Yeah,
resources.
I would bring it up at your, should any of you have those ideas and thoughts that you want to bring forward as a commissioner, please do so during your commissioner comments. And then we document it and we have it written down, and like Leslie stated here with her comments, Leslie sent us a commissioner sent us an email with her comments. And so we have that documented and we put it in our notes for next year. So we will take the note. We will have a discussion about it initially to see how and let us talk about it, and then we'll report back to you.
Okay.
Hopefully I'm answering that question.
Yeah.
And a lot of commissioners and staff will have a strategic planning day or 2 or 3 hour event. We're not quite there yet because we're such a new commission, right? And so my hope when we get a new city manager that I can discuss how can we do some strategic planning, and can I have the green light to facilitate that type of a meeting.
Right. And I just also think that we should take advantage of the resources that we have right now. And, I think the San Marino Chinese Club has a new board. I don't know when City Club and Rotary is switching out again, but, there seems to be a revitalization, whether it's like our members here who want to participate more in the city, participating in our city clubs and Rotary. I feel like we got to take advantage of this moment. And the more we get together and just kind of hang out and just do stuff and keep it in the community, I feel like that will drive even more. And then so when it comes to planning, though, we have to make sure that we set it up so that it's memorialized, so that you could bring it up, whether it's next year or if there's a new city manager and they want to raise it as an issue right now, then we could at least make sure that it's there. I think that's where I'm just concerned that it will.
Well, let me give you an example. This is a great example of how our community partnerships actually transpired into a new event. So probably about 15 months ago, Chinese Club, we acknowledged that we wanted to, because I had just joined the team, that we wanted to develop a Chinese New Year's Lunar New Year event. That was actually kind of a dialogue that we had internally. And because we do have a relationship with Chinese Club, we reached out to their event staff and we started talking about it. And they said, absolutely, we want to be involved. We want to partner with you. Okay. And then we got to thinking, after we talked with them, we said, who really are the experts to drive this type of an event? Chinese Club or us? They said, we will take the lead because we love this idea and we want the city to be our partner. Okay. So this was 15 months ago that this event that's listed on page 15, the second item on January 28th, this was a city Chinese Club collaborative conversation that's been going on for literally 15 months. And so now it has become reality. And they are the lead agency, but the city is also a sponsor. So that was sort of how it kind of, flushed out, was that it was deemed that they really are the better agency to take the lead on an event like this, but the city would absolutely play a critical role in supporting their permitting at Lacey Park. And we're giving them equipment resources. We're helping with department booths at the event. And so now we have a new community event, and we're anticipating about 1,000 people in Lacey Park. And who knows, it could get bigger. And let's all pray for good weather. So hopefully that kind of gives you some background on how, just an idea how it sort of got, dialogue through, and then who's the best agency to take the lead. So.
May I ask a quick question?
Yeah.
There are some events we've had in the past that I thought were pretty great and we've never brought them back. Would like bringing back past events be part of a new planning or like down the road?
Yeah.
I think Leslie mentioned that she liked the snow day. We like.
And that's just, I think that that's a great idea. And I don't think that's going to be that's not a big ask. That's an event we already did. That's just sort of an activity that we would just add, and we will absolutely consider that. And we'll find out, what are the logistics? How much does it cost? Is it within budget? How many people does it take to man a snow area? And do we have that organizational capacity to add a snow area? Those kinds of things. So, but absolutely, we've got it. And we're going to come back and report back to you guys about whether it's going to be a new element or not.
And I just want to bring it up so I have it on record. I love the farmer's market. I thought it was fantastic.
Yeah.
And I know a lot of people did, but then a lot of people didn't like the parking and the location. So just throwing it out there. It was a great event.
I have a clarifying question. Did recreation lead that farmer's market, and were you here? Eddie probably knows the history. If you'd like to hear how it went.
I've spoken to my colleagues about it. It was before I was here, but it was actually there at the Triangle Park area. And they had quite a few sessions.
I want to say it was during the summer.
Yeah.
I want to say June, July, August.
Yeah, and that was, they had it a couple of times, and then there was some outcry, I believe, that they didn't really want it. So that's why they stopped it. But yeah, as far as I know, that's where it would take place, and it was pretty popular. So
it could have been a council directive to discontinue it for some reason, unbeknownst to us.
Right.
Would you like us to do some research on that and report back as to why the event went away?
I think I know the answer.
Oh, okay.
I will tell you later.
Oh, okay.
I do know that there was some outcry based upon parking and businesses there that were not consulted about the event taking place. But now that you say that is a designated park area, I understand why it could be held there. So it all makes sense to me. Just at this moment, I feel like a farmer's market is such a great idea.
Yeah. But the dicey thing, and not to, get us too far off, because we do have another
Yes.
big presentation, but, final comment is
Yes.
that parking lot, while the grass area is zoned park space, that parking lot does belong to the city, but we do also support all of those businesses right there, and displacing them. And however it was administered, the way we did it for Home for the Holidays was, I wrote a letter, and Eddie and I canvassed on foot, and we visited every single place that was open. And we had a conversation, we introduced ourselves, we explained the event. Many people were really thrilled, but I think we garnered a lot of support because we did that.
I think
personal
that was an excellent
outreach.
idea.
Yeah, that personal outreach, and we absolutely had no negative feedback whatsoever about that event on that night from the business community. So
Excellent.
anyway, so
Sorry,
let's get back on task here. So we talked about the upcoming event calendar. If you don't have any other questions about the rest of the event, or excuse me, the rest of the report, we do offer up operational staff briefings for events that have occurred like in the last 30 to 60 days, with some important feedback about levels of service, number of people that attended certain things. Hopefully you found that interesting. Of course, there's the social media, our reach and our analytics behind our social media accounts. And then we end the report with commendations and nice supportive notes from community members. So any final questions about the director and manager's report?
All right, so if there's no other comments from the commissioners, we probably have to open it up for public comments. Do we have any public comment requests submitted electronically?
We do not.
Okay, so this is the receive and file. Third item on the agenda is the Recreation Division Schedule of Fees for Service for fiscal year 23-24. Can we please have a presentation from Community Services Director Johnson and Recreation Manager Covarrubias?
Okay, thank you again. This report begins on page 16 of your packet. And in light of the budget development for fiscal year 23-24, it was important that we begin to take a look at the revenue side of our budget, which is essentially the fees and charges that we administer for all of the programs and services that we have. The background on this, and I will paraphrase from the report itself, but I think it's important to note the history. So back in 2001, the council adopted a resolution that authorized the city manager, upon consultation with the rec director, now the title is changed to community services director, the ability to set those fees for the recreation department activity fees for all of the programs and offerings and services. This is not this is not required to go to council, because by resolution, it gives the city manager the authority to approve fees upon the recommendation of staff. So attachment 1 is a comprehensive view of the fees and charges that the rec division manages. In the past, this document did not exist. So this is the first time we actually pulled it together. Therefore, when we start going through the tables and charts, you'll see that we did our best to do our research as to when the last time a fee was modified. Okay. We have justification and methodology that's listed on the bottom of 16 and rolls to page 17. But essentially, there were 5 strategies that, as we look to analyze all of the fees and charges, these were the things we took into consideration. The first one being benchmarking ourselves against other agencies, or we did a competitive market analysis. So what are our competitors charging? And those would be communities and people within the cities within the San Gabriel Valley that either offer the same type of a program, same type of an event. We're not benchmarking ourselves against San Diego. It's obviously in our region, our area. We took a look at, we did notice that there was some inconsistency in the percentage between res and non-res. So we took a look at that and felt like this was the time to ensure that we had that consistent spread. We did take a look at adjustments for the CPI. A lot of cities will just adopt a policy. San Marino does not have a policy that says all of our user fees and charges will go up by the regional CPI no matter what. San Marino doesn't have that policy in place. So we should be adjusting every year, but now we actually have our hands around in a nice table and chart, a baseline document that will help guide us going forward. That CPI index will come from our finance director. Right now, as I stated in the report, we did a conservative 3% increase. So there is a note that is to let you know that if our finance director comes back and tells us we really I'm going to make a recommendation to the city manager that we do a 6% increase. Then the three of us, the city manager, myself, and finance director would apply a higher CPI. But right now, the numbers you're looking at reflect a conservative 3%. And then you're also looking at things within the chart that might be the establishment of a new program or an event. It's not that you were comparing charts because there wasn't a chart that you could compare with, but there are some new programs and events that are in there. And then lastly, if we open a new facility, which would accommodate for meetings and events or different types of activities. This year, we are opening up a new facility, which is the San Marino Center. So then from, once we kind of dive into the tables, we're recommending to the commission that you walk with us here tonight, reviewing the fees, provide us feedback related to the proposed increases, in addition to the revised fee schedule for the newly renovated San Marino Community Center. That feedback then will be received and presented to the acting city manager and the finance director for final consideration during the budget development process. And then going forward, year over year going forward, this document will be updated and approved annually. So we'll be bringing this document to you this time next year and so on. And we'll be refining this, as needed. But this was our, and we looked at other cities and their approach to this public document and took some form and function that we believe would apply nicely here to San Marino. So with that being said, we do have a presentation that will walk us through. We could take a break right now if anybody has any initial comments, but the way I thought would be a nice way to walk through the actual chart itself is we do have slides by program section. It essentially replicates what you saw, but we're all looking at it here. So you can either reference the hard copies we gave you, or we will, let's go here. So there's our open slide. Oh, I'm going this way. I'm going to take a break here for a second, take a breath. Does anybody have any questions about that rather lengthy intro?
I do have one general question.
Okay.
So the fees and the services in the packet, are they up to the section 1 to 10? Are these existing, or section 9, existing programs? And so that they actually exist?
Yes, that's not everything because we have contract classes. So a huge portion of our contract classes are not necessarily displayed within this fee structure. What we do have is a slide that talks about how we go about pricing our contract classes and the percentage that is best practice and standard protocol for when we actually use contract instructors versus we administer the class or the fee or the whatever ourselves. So it's not the list would be so astronomically long. So
Okay.
Yeah. So that answers your question. Yeah, we're good. Okay. So this first slide just is our table of contents essentially. And those are all the various different how we organized all of our fees and how we logically group things essentially. The first one is our aquatics program. And so in sort of walking through the chart, as you'll see, the table was exactly the same, except for the San Marino Center. Going left to right, we provided a description. We provided the current fee, res, non-res, going left to right column. We expressed how that unit price is it priced out per visit, per session, per lesson, per card, something like that. So the unit price, when it was last modified, this was really a great exercise for staff. The fees were sort of all over the board. The best practice is that agencies within if not doing it every year, because CPI, we all know that, there's inflationary impacts. Some municipalities and counties will take a year off. They'll say, know what, we're gonna do it every 2 years. I've seen that model and I've worked in that model. There are some municipalities who say, nope, we're going to just do it religiously because we know that, personnel charges go up every year, materials go up every year. It's just, kind of good business to keep up with that. So we're not playing catch up, and that we are maintaining that, that good revenue stream that helps us, continue to keep up with the revenue the percentage of revenue that we are recovering for the department, and not fall behind on that. So then you'll notice in the middle of each chart is our fiscal year 23-24 proposed fee, res non-res. If it's highlighted, it means staff are making a recommended change. We are recommending to the commission as well as the city manager to consider altering that fee. Nothing is going down, as much as we would love to have said we lowered fees. We didn't. There are minor increases throughout the entire schedule. And then we provided the amount of change as well as a comment. We wanted to let you know why that fee changed and why we believe it should change. So with that being said, I'm not going to go through every single line item. I just want to know if we have any questions about the aquatics program and the offerings that we do have, and any of those recommended fee adjustments. By committee, if you'd like to ask each.
All right. Does any, or it looks like
Does he
Commissioner
have a-
Tam has a question, but
Oh, yeah, okay. So
Let's see.
about the swimming, is the open swim and the lap swimming at the San Marino High School?
I'm sorry, could you repeat the question?
So I'm looking at the fee schedule for the open swim, the adult lap swim, and the prices have gone up. And first question I have is, are those classes at the San Marino High School?
The fees did increase, and there are separate programs. The adult lap swim and water walking is a
Yes.
morning drop-in program for anyone that wants to, basically adults that want to go in and do their exercises in the morning. The
course.
open pool is open for the community, so there's a lot more splashing, a lot more waves, because there's a lot more kids playing in the water and that type of thing.
But
And
the answer is
and they're-
yes.
and they're both yes at the San Marino High School.
Okay, so that's what I had a question about in terms of the increase of fees versus the neighboring cities that have swimming pools. I've been to other city swimming pools as well as the San Marino High School. There's no comparison. I actually believe that the fee should stay at $2 versus the other cities. I would say the San Marino High School pool is significantly smaller than any city pool I've ever seen.
Commissioner Tam, the difference between our aquatics program and other
Mhm.
cities' aquatics programs is the fact that we do not own our own pool, and therefore we have a very, very high rental fee that we pay
Oh.
to San Marino High School. So we run this program at a very, very low cost recovery. And it's a aquatics are very highly subsidized here in San Marino. We're not even able to recover. It's very nominal, the fees we do charge, because we do pay an extremely high amount of a lease payment for 9 weeks to use the pool. So that's kind of the difference. They're able to manage their own their own, they own the property. And they do year-round programming typically. So ours is a little different because the city doesn't own the facility.
Okay. Understand.
Yes.
There are other school districts and cities that have joint use agreements that, you know, they don't have, the city doesn't have to pay the school district more than maintenance or anything, but we do have a high amount that we do lease the pool for the 9 weeks.
Yeah, the joint use agreement is a great point, Eddie. Thank you for bringing that up. So most cities will say, you know, the school district has X amount of properties and you need to use our facilities and vice versa. City, you have some facilities that we would love to use, like Lacey Park and
San Marino Center.
and San Marino Center. Okay. Most cities have a joint use agreement that then they say, you know what, we're not going to keep a ledger. We're just going to we're just going to kind of talk about how can we make sure it's equitable use for public spaces. That would be hopefully a goal that at some point, maybe with the new city manager, I know that's going to be one of my recommendations when we do get someone, that we move towards a JUA and then you know, that way we're able to kind of keep those fees down and offer, you know, quality programming, but we're all sharing public facilities.
So what you're saying is we don't need to memorialize that. We would like to make sure that is evaluated because you already have that on your
Yeah.
priority.
Yep,
Okay.
yep. We, yeah, that's a whole nother, yes.
Okay.
I will be bringing that up with the new city manager, and it'll be, it's actually already on a list of kind of priorities for the new person in charge.
Yeah, because I think Commissioner Tan would love to sign up and say, I would like you to research that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
All right.
And again, a JUA is typically done at the city manager level, not at like my staff level or anything. I might help, but. Anyway, so we're moving on. We'll go to summer camps. Does anybody have any questions about our summer camp programming and the recommended fee adjustments that we have for, oh, that would be me. I'm thinking Kristen's gonna do it.
I'm not gonna screen share because then we can't see Commissioner Tam.
Oh,
I'm
okay,
just gonna leave
so-
it like
So you could
this.
just press it.
So do you want to move us to summer
Yes.
camp? There we go. And then Kristen, do we have to, can we do presentation view on the slides or?
But then you can't see Commissioner.
Oh,
Tam,
because
so
then
I'm
it
gonna leave
widens it.
this way,
I
yeah.
understand. Okay. Okay, so any questions about summer camp? Anybody?
Any questions?
Nope. Okay, so we're moving on to our early childhood program area. We are again recommending some increases, and the comments are on the right. Typically, you'll see this reoccurring comment has to do with aligning the non-res percentage differential for that markup to be 20%. That is more in line with the best practice. Some of the fees that we saw were a little bit all over the board, with Manager Covarrubias recalling that a few years back, one of the directors recommended a 16%. But in doing our research, we really didn't understand, was there some methodology behind that, you know? And so it was, but then we did see some other spreads, and it just made sense to make it a little more clean and make it a little more consistent, and something that I certainly have seen in my travels as well is more of a rounded percentage, and then it's easier to manage that fee.
That's
Those fees.
reflective of the other cities around.
Yeah.
here.
Yeah.
The 20% differential.
I believe so. I mean, there was some, I don't know that, and I didn't do all of the research. Did you see anybody above 20 at times?
No, I don't recall seeing anything
But
that much.
15
Yeah.
to 20, 10, 15, 20 was right there.
Yeah.
Was right in line with what other cities do. So. Okay, so no questions on early childhood. So we'll move on to our adult 55. The only program that we run in-house is the senior trips, and pricing varies based on the trip, but we also need, because trips are, we run various different trips. So there is a range there. Is that what I'm looking at?
That's correct.
Yeah, the range.
That's a range in the pricing of each trip. Some are less expensive than others, depending what activities, what areas they're gonna go for lunch and those types of things. So that's why the prices vary in those.
But again, we'll get that differential kind of, trued up in this area too. Contract classes,
Quick question. So
Yep.
that senior trip, is that the December 5th, the holiday in Little Italy, San Diego?
right,
That's-
that would be an example.
That's one of them. And there was another one in August, I believe, to Catalina Island, for example. So yeah, they vary.
How would we go about making recommendations on senior trips?
Again, if, until I can sort of get a plan, you guys can bring up some ideas if you'd like, if there's something that you see and you think is really cool. And I know like right now, we are planning for next year's programming. So if you guys would like to make a recommendation and you can think of something, shoot it our way right now. Okay. In the future, it's my hope and goal that we actually have a planned session with you. So we're not doing it piecemeal throughout the year. That we actually have, a dedicated time that is not necessarily a meeting, but it's a planning session. A lot of cities and commissions will do that. It's called a planning charrette. And so, but if you can think of anything, send it our way by,
Yeah,
what do we have?
Yeah,
Till end of February?
yeah.
Probably end of February. If you guys have any programming ideas and for things, please send them our way. We're putting our budgets together and our program plans together right now.
Yeah, and some of those trips are dependent on the transportation companies, whether they go to certain areas, whether they don't go to certain areas. So yeah, there's a lot of trips that they offer. We try to take polls on the trips and ask the seniors that participate, where would you like to go next? Get ideas from them. We take surveys there on the bus. 5 or 6 people are interested. We know that's a good one. There might be someone that's one person interested in one thing. Well, that's not necessarily what a lot of people are going to want to do. So if there's more than like 5 or 6 people that are interested in that, we know that it would be a successful trip. So we do take surveys as well.
Do you have to be a senior?
It is partially funded through CDBG, so community outreach program. So yeah, those trips are specifically geared towards the senior population.
But it's not to say we
It's-
couldn't do family trips. They're fee-based, so we could do family trips.
There are cities that do family trips as well. That will take a bus to Disneyland, for example, if the parents don't want to drive or something. So, yeah.
All right.
Yeah, but please, I encourage, if you do have programming ideas, just put them in an email to me and Eddie, and we will absolutely, or mention them at a meeting. And certainly not right now would be a great time. Not as we're doing this particular exercise, but informally is great, or in writing is fine too. So next we move on to, this is our contract classes. I'm going to go ahead and hand it over to Eddie for the next couple of slides.
So contract classes are just that. We contract with instructors that are interested in providing services. It can be an individual that, for example, our piano teacher has been here for a long time. And he has that skill. He wants to teach the kids, so he does that. There's also other entities that provide the service for us that are larger or bigger companies. One of them is like Parker Anderson, and they have a long list of different classes and activities that they can offer to the community. So we do discuss the pricing. They're at liberty to decide what they charge per class. And we end up taking a percentage of whatever the revenue is. So our split for using our facilities for marketing and doing all that type of thing is a 60-40 split with the contractors. The only difference is if we're at their facility, such as the San Marino Tennis Center or T-Max, the Taekwondo, if we do promote the classes at their facilities, it's a 70-30 split with them because they are using more resources, electricity, toilet paper, whatnot, all of those different things that they need to supply to run the classes. So that's the way we do our contract classes. And that's the percentages that we currently have.
Any questions from the commissioners? Contract classes?
So just to be clear, the one thing that's changing is the non-resident fee is increasing to 20% for all contract classes.
Mhm.
Okay, no other question?
Go ahead. Amy, go ahead.
Family life?
Yep.
Okay, so family life, or excuse me, sorry, family events, all ages. These are some of the smaller classes, almost like pop-up classes that we have, that we invite families to come out. And you see they're on the list. We have the Earth Day kite making class, the Fallen in Love wreath making classes at the parks, make and takes with dad, as well as painting with mom, centered around the Father's Day, Mother's Day themes. Those are just some of the classes that we offer. We do charge for the materials and the staff time on those. They're not meant to make any money, and there's an additional just a non-resident fee that's also incorporated into those fees. But those are to try to get families to Lacey Park to do some kind of a build, some kind of an activity where they can collaborate and work together.
So are these, are all these services or programs at Lacey Park?
These have been at Lacey Park. There has been one time that we did offer the Fallen in Love wreath making here at the Barth, just because we weren't sure what the weather was going to be like. So we did offer it here. So it's not to say that we only have to have them at Lacey Park, but I think families like to go out there on a Saturday morning and then do their activity, and then they go play at the playground or at the structure. So typically they are at Lacey Park in the mornings.
May I just ask, how many people do you usually get for each of these events?
We get the max. So our classes, they're not huge because we can't accommodate that many people. But they range anywhere between 30 to 60 people, and they're maxed out. They sell out really quickly. One year, the painting with mom session, that one we had to actually create a second class and have the 60 people because it was just such a popular demand, or there was such high demand for that class that we talked to the instructor. Luckily, they were able to offer a second class. So yeah, but those are very popular.
Is the restriction more staffing at the San Marino side? Because it seems like there's demand.
Yeah, it is staffing levels that we can't get a lot of people out there to assist because our staff will practice the craft or whatever they're doing a day before or 2 days before, but we just don't have the adequate amount of people that can go out there and lead 10 people at a time. So we're restricted by those kind of limits on how many people we can have. And then also we do want to take our numbers, and we do adjust on an annual basis as well, because we do have to pre-purchase these supplies. So if we buy too many of the supplies, usually they sell them like in a dozen or 2 dozen. You can't get a lot of these types of supplies like individual. So we have to just kind of monitor the numbers of the year before and then try to calculate what we think we're going to get that year. But they sell out, and they sell out usually the day before. So it's not like if we were to sell out like within 2 or 3 days of us opening registration, then we would automatically just be able to open up more spots. And we would try to train more staff or try to have more staff accommodate. So we have advance notice. We're able to open more classes or more spots for families.
So question on this particular section. So what if let's say once San Marino Center opens up and there's a family service event, are you going to add that into this particular section? And it's fee schedule, or you're gonna create another section to cover like a different venue?
Right now, we do have a pro forma that we developed about 6 months ago about how we plan to activate that space. So a lot of stuff may be coming over from that was already at San Marino's or over at Stoneman. And so we do have a mix of rentals that are going to happen there. So we have to balance rentals, internal meetings, as well as what programming is actually coming over and we're moving it over. So isn't a lot of, there's some room for new programming, and we do have some of that already. I don't know if I'm answering the question exactly, but we do have space for new programming, and we do have a new program plan already developed for San Marino
I
Center.
think he was asking if we add additional all ages family programming at San Marino Center, if it would.
They
fall
would go
under
into this
special.
category.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Because
Yeah.
earlier we were talking about how these all happen traditionally at Lacey. So I think
Oh,
that's why
my
he was-
apologies.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's okay. Yeah, exactly. Because I mean, I just want to make sure that, the fees, because it seems really nice to have a lot more family, all ages
Mhm.
programming.
Mhm.
But then right now, when you look at this pricing, it's based on being at Lacey Park,
Mhm.
as opposed to if you were at Barth or anywhere else, you probably would want to adjust that,
Mhm.
right? So that's why I was just kind of wondering, is this kind of,
Yeah, these fees are really based on what the materials and the staffing is gonna cost, and the lowest amount that we can just charge to recover and not subsidize the amount. So that's what these prices are based on.
Okay.
If they're at San Marino Community Center, then we would charge just again the materials and the supplies because the facility is already there. But yes, we would love to make this list grow. It's intergenerational. It's not a big special event where you're going to get lost in all the shuffle. It's more of an intimate family type of an activity. So that they're a special category on their own.
Okay, thanks. This is our special events page. I know Leslie did bring forward a comment. And so I would imagine Commissioner Yen, if you want, I don't know if that was part of your question. You saw her email as well. Did we forward that? We forwarded that to you. And it was specific to one of that's okay. I can.
yeah, if you could,
Yeah, so on our events page, and we certainly want every commissioner to provide feedback, but so this, we're looking on page 26 and the chart is up. The one comment that she had was in relation to 4th of July. And as you can see, we have there is a long history around the pricing of 4th of July. So if anybody wants, some historic knowledge, I do believe Manager Covarrubias Rec Manager Covarrubias does have a pretty good grasp of how some of these fees, the pre-sale as well as day of sales, were established back in 07 and 05. And then, going forward with an increase, we felt it was important not only because the fee hadn't been adjusted in so many years, but we do also know that there will be some significant new expenses that are going to be recommended next year for 4th of July. One being potentially paid security for the event. Internally, and this is all going to be suggested to council, but and through the development of the program budget process, we know for a fact that our police department and public works department and all of us interdepartmentally are really spread very thin for this event. And we really could use, with the onset of concerns over large scale gatherings, that we really kind of add that extra layer of protection here in San Marino. So that is going to be a big consideration. And we do anticipate an increase in our fireworks as well. So a couple big line items are going to increase.
Is the increase in fees with the idea to include that budget?
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Because, I kind of have the same question with a lot of these fees, like where it's going towards,
Yeah.
is part of, because I know, and I don't want to take up too much time, but, I know there's been, discussion, at a lot of these different meetings about, the levels of staffing, and a lot of constraints being put in place because of that. So my question is, are these fees, these increasing fees going towards that? Because,
Yeah.
that would obviously assist the department to, increase its capacity. And I know we talked about, a volunteer manager, a lot of different ways to manage, capacity. So, and I don't know if these fees are going towards that, which is obviously a very good thing, or if they're just going
Yeah.
toward expenses.
CPI is
that kind of thing.
typically, yes, typically CPI isn't, it's not, it doesn't address personnel. It's really materials, you're not going to gain enough, when they're community-based events and programming, they're not a high individual benefit that are really high priced where we're actually recovering all of our direct and indirect costs. That's just not the programs that we're looking at here. These are just to adjust for, again, inflationary impact related to materials and equipment and things that are needed to administer that class, not the personnel, not the personnel side. For 4th of July and a paid contract for security, that's going to be a very, very big, it's going to cut into our cost recovery for that event. But that's okay because we are really at a high cost recovery for a large community event. And we have some revenue that we can, and we also need to adjust this fee just to get it up to a fee adjustment for today's pricing. So,
And I just wanted to add as well, you keep hearing commissioners about staff shortages. So you just want to make you aware these events were done when we had a lot of part-time staff. Before COVID, we had about 40 part-time employees in one section, another 12 in another, like the after-school care. And the preschool had about 40 employees or so. So we had like 50 employees total. Well, when COVID hit, obviously we had to reduce our programs, eliminate some of them, reduce them drastically. Some people decided they didn't want to come back, because restrictions and things like that. So the programs that we have right now, for example, in the preschool, we have about 6 teachers compared to what we used to have in the past. So that's where some of these shortages are coming from as well. We just don't have the staff, because if we hire additional staff right now, we don't have anything for them to necessarily do, because our teachers are already covered for these kids. And our after-school daycare program, is now operated through the school district now operates that program. So that's where we have run into the problem where we used to have a lot of staff members that were able to do security at the gates. And I'd be able to say, okay, you 6 are going to man these gates and you 15 are going to do the family fun zone. We don't have those resources anymore. Unfortunately, we just don't have the staff. The programming levels have reduced. COVID was a total, just made the department very different. And so that's where we're at right now. And that's why you keep hearing the staff shortages is those are the reasons behind the staff shortages.
yeah, we're recovering still from COVID impact, right? Where we were on shutdown. And then also the contract that went, a very large contract that went, what year was that? That went to Unified,
Yeah.
the after school program.
2020, I believe.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, back to 4th of July, one of the comments that Commissioner Sy and I will share it here with you in relation to 4th of July was, let me find it here. She does believe that the overall pricing is reasonable The only exception is she still feels that 4th of July pre-sales, the $10, did you find the email?
I did.
Yeah, the final paragraph there. She still feels that 4th of July pre-sales at $10.20, the 10 and 20 in differential, that the non-res basically is a little bit, she believes it's a little too high. Combined percentage differential is still a bit too high. The question I would ask is whether a non-resident would feel bad about having to pay the non-res amount and thus be disincentivized to attend, or they might even try to do a workaround and ask a resident friend to buy the ticket for them on their behalf. She would like to, throw in the idea of a slight tweak, such as a $12 res and an $18 non-res seems a little more reasonable differential. So that was Leslie, and so I will let you, Chairman Yen, kind of guide any feedback about the events and
Okay.
or specifically to 4th of July.
Yeah, I mean, I would like to hear other people's thoughts. I mean, I have some questions probably that we could kind of ferret out, whether there are issues. But, just generally, just right off the bat, it seems like the differential, the increases for both resident and non-resident. But does anyone else want to, I guess, just have thoughts about this? I guess I'm guilty of buying lots of pre-sale wristbands, and sometimes I don't even use them because I'm afraid that like someone may want it. So I contribute to just paying and then not even using something. But at $10, I may think about it, but then, if my mom says, "Why didn't you buy me one?" then I probably feel guilty about it, so I buy extra anyways. But anyone have any thoughts? Vice Chair?
I feel, I come from a retail background, so if you have $18, you probably have 20. So the $2 reduction in fees that Leslie is thinking about, I can see her point. But I also think if you really want to go, you're going to go. And you're a non-resident, that's what you do on 4th of July. We sit in our front yard and watch them. So I'm not one to talk about pre-sale, except for the egg hunt, of course, and the trunk or treat. But I understand where she's coming from, and I know she's mentioned it before. And while I appreciate that, I feel like the fees are, or if they're standard and there's an increased cost, then we should leave them as they are.
Commissioner Wu?
I don't have a problem with the fees as they are. In fact, I think if we're looking to be more equitable in terms of resident versus non-resident, it seems reasonable to me to increase the resident, for instance, to 50 and keep the non-resident at 20. Because if the idea is part of this is coming towards everyone, and the increase in costs and the enjoyment is the same by everyone. And part of that is going towards security, which everyone benefits, and everyone is benefiting from fireworks. Then, the pre-sale should probably be just closer in price, because I noticed, the day of sales, everything is equal for everyone.
I think we are trying to honor the fee structure when it was created back in
Right.
that there must have been some methodology around this differential.
Right, and I
back
noticed that
then.
your differential is consistent.
Yeah.
And so, but
And none of us were here, and we
Right.
really tried to find those staff reports when they were originally created for, like, when did the city start charging?
Right.
There's a lot of cities that don't charge for this event at all. So we couldn't really find the methodology around why the $10 difference, as our base starting point. So that was, we talked about this a lot, this particular area.
Commissioner Tam? Any thoughts?
Actually, I have no problems with the fee schedule as is with the 10 and 20. I think the differential should be reflected because the residents do pay property tax. I think it's fine just the way it is as I'm looking at it.
Yeah, and I'll just add that, as far as the experience, when you do pay the fee, one of the most amazing things about the Lacey Park 4th of July is when you bring your rope and you start lining up your boundaries, people actually respect it. And so there is this, and I don't know what it is, and then, I've been there and, there are people who are that, whether they're, there's a lot of people there and maybe they're residents, maybe they're not residents, but there's this respect factor and this community factor that it doesn't matter whether you're resident or non-resident. So, I don't mind maintaining the differential as well. And I also, I guess, and just to differentiate, I don't know if there is a big differentiation between our park and our fireworks versus other parks, but I mean, we have people lined up, in the morning. I was there last year. You go in, I don't know what time we open up, 6 a.m. or something. 7 a.m.
Yeah.
People lined up there at 6 a.m. and go
When
in.
it was like 3 a.m.
It was
Yeah.
crazy.
Yeah.
There's people that want to be the first.
Yeah, and now I know which spot is the spot now. So I'm gonna rush it. I'm going straight to that spot. But people like
Come sit on our lawn.
and then I may do that.
The food vendors and then
That's fine.
main stage
I'll make you hot
entertainment.
But I think one of the amazing things is people they plant their stuff and then they walk away and they leave, right? And I don't know if it's because we do charge, and then there's a sense of kind of ownership to that. But I just want to kind of at least put it out there just to let people know that, there seems to be something about the 4th of July, and we do have a fee structure and it's been in place, I guess, since the 70s or however long it's been. And I think there must be a reason, something must be working. And unless we have some other data to show otherwise. So for example.
And the demand is there. It's
Mhm.
not like the numbers are going down.
Yeah.
It's a tradition. We have a reputation of putting on a quality family-oriented event with good entertainment and a good, safe environment for families to recreate in for the entire day. And then an amazing fireworks show. And it's a tradition.
Yeah.
And that's kind of a unique
Yeah.
thing that needs to be, obviously protected and.
Appreciated. I mean, I will say though that, and I think I understand where Leslie's coming from, and I do appreciate her consideration of the community at large. And maybe that's what we're here to do, is to provide these other ideas of how we engage our neighbors in the other cities, and we all have friends who live in La Cañada, South Pasadena, Temple City, Arcadia, and maybe the way we build that community is through these other events we're going to think of. And
I've
recommend.
heard an event like this sort of be referred to as a sacred cow. You just don't, you don't mess with something when that's not broken. They love this. Our community has proven year over year over year, they love it and they see value in it, and that they will pay, they will pay for that because it is a perceived value and they do believe they're getting the value. And I think everybody will not be shocked that fireworks, are going to be more expensive, that everything's going to be a little more expensive this year as we all recover from, the pandemic, and it's every industry has been touched with an increase. I was telling Kristen today, I'm just afraid to get my email from Southern California Edison and how much my gas bill is going to be, that whole conversation. But are there any other fees within this chart that we have any questions about?
I think I just want to make the general statement that whatever fee increase is needed to make sure that these events continue to be well run, because
Mhm.
obviously they are, and you talked
Mhm.
about the not the sacred cow nature, but the fact that it's come to be expected that our city provides these kind of,
Yeah,
events.
quality, yeah,
Right,
really good.
whatever
quality.
fee is needed is to me the fee that's appropriate.
Okay, thank you. Yeah.
Because, as more people attend these, if fees need to be increased to provide security, to make sure it's a safe family atmosphere, to make sure that whatever resources are needed to be provided, that makes sense to me. So, and that, to me, that's the central base of the city, and that's why we're here. So takes a fee increase, and that's a fee increase, so.
Well said. I do have a question on the Lacey Park after dark camp out.
Mhm.
And my question is, what are the costs? And I asked this, and you may be surprised because I was thinking, should it be more? But then I don't know what the costs are. I don't know what it's there to pay for.
So these costs really pay for the food. That we provide the meal at the end of the night, the licensing fees to play the movie at the end of the night. LA County Health Department permits, rental of equipment like porta potties, those types of things. We have been able to also secure entertainment. Like last year, we had a gentleman that did music, like the Native American music, and led like drumming and things like that. A nominal fee. LA County, we try to look for resources that are free. So LA County came over they have a wildlife little sanctuary in Whittier Narrows. So we asked them to bring their pets, the free presentation. The county, well, at that time was doing it for free. So this covers the cost to put on the show and the production. Now, eventually, we do want to get some higher quality contractors to come out and do some other things. So which is why we're increasing the fees a little bit more, but with the number of people and with the fees that we're charging now, it does cover it. And we're not trying to make any money or profit anything. So these fees cover what we need, our expenses, but that we could charge more, we could. Last year, we had a waiting list of over like 200 people. So that tells you as a telltale sign there that, there is an interest in that. So we could raise that fee if we wanted to some more, and we would still get some adequate performance. But again, the quality of the dinner and those types of things would have to also be more expensive.
If I could just add, so the expenses that Eddie described are probably all of our direct costs. It does not encompass any personnel charges. Okay. That has not been a directive from council that we recover, indirect personnel costs for these types of events. So until we are given that directive, we're going to try to manage those fees. So at minimum, all of our direct costs are covered.
What is capacity for that event?
Last year, we had about 150 people go to the event, but we saw that there's plenty of space. We can increase it to about 250 people or so. So we're gonna increase the number this year. So I think we'd be comfortable with about 250 this year.
We might
and we'll
even
go-
consider a second night. I had
Nice.
tried to ask them, please consider a second night, because we could have easily, if we weren't able to do it. It is a labor intensive, resource intensive event. Our staff stay overnight. It's, there's this thing called, special event fatigue. And our team, our special event and our rec staff, they get fatigue from these events. And now we're asking them, let's have some people stay overnight.
And the other thing is, we don't want to take from that. If we offer it too many times
Burnout.
in the
I just
year,
can't-
yeah, if you offer it too many times in the year, then you're gonna have people, it's just a camp out. So we want to also keep it fresh and let people appreciate it, that it only happens once a year.
Yeah.
And keep it like interesting instead of like offering it 2 or 3 times a year. And then people, we'll skip this one, but we'll go to the next one. Well, if a lot of people think that way, then we're not gonna get the adequate number of people that we want. So that's another element that we consider as well.
And I know, and I guess the reason why I wanted to raise this, kind of along the line of Commissioner Wu's, reference that, whatever it costs to cover, to make sure we, it's safe and we have, cover our costs is, this seems like one of those where, especially, I guess, depending on the size of your tent too, right? Because I saw some pretty big tents out there. And, they covered quite a big space, and it's kind of, for those of us who don't want to camp out in our own backyards, I guess we could do that. It's a nice opportunity to do something, and then it's overnight. It has that different feel and experience, you're out in the woods.
Well,
Although,
but you're with your friends and neighbors and part of your
Yeah,
community. You don't have
exactly.
to drive to a national park or state
And,
park.
yeah.
It's-
And the other consideration with the fees is, you're looking at just one fee, but if it's a family, then that's gonna become $120, like right off the bat, for your tent. So, so it does also impact some of the families. I know families with 6 or 7 kids, they're gonna have to pay, whatever the math is,
right.
280 or whatever to take their family on this event, so.
Do we count dogs? I'm sorry.
Did we allow
My
dogs?
husband would go if there was. a
Did
dog
we
around.
allow dogs?
If they're on a leash.
Oh.
Oh, if there are dogs allowed then.
So moving on, we'll move on to Lacey Park. Kristen, any questions about, let me see if I can. So in the middle of the chart there, sports activity permit. There was never a non-res, as you can see, the current fee 85 to 85. There was not a non-res fee. Nobody really knows why, but we do believe that if a non-res individual wants to come and apply for that sports activity permit, that because they're not a resident, they should pay a differential. So that's that 170 in the middle. And then also we are recommending that non-res pay a differential for the request to use the park in its entirety, which is that final line there. Again, with the lack of institutional knowledge, and we couldn't find it in any staff reports, former staff reports as to why these two fees were excluded. We believe it's our, thought that there absolutely should be a differential for a non-resident that wants to use our top amenity within the city to utilize it. So we're putting that recommendation forward.
Does anyone have any questions on this one? Because I know I do.
Okay.
I don't know, Commissioner Tam, do you have any questions on the Lacey Park schedule fees?
No.
Commissioner Wu?
I don't know if my questions are the same as yours, so, but again, is this when our other cities in the area, for instance, if we were to go to San Diego and want to rent out one of their parks, are they charging the same differential in terms of the non-resident fee? And is that a consistent thing that's
They do charge non-resident fees as well, comparable. Yeah, we looked at the local areas with other price lists, Temple City, we looked at Monrovia, we looked at Monterey Park. So we did try to look at that, and yeah, there was also fees for non-residents similar to this, to what we're presenting today.
Vice Chair?
No questions.
So along the lines of the sports activity permit, Lacey Park does not, it's like there's no baseball diamond or soccer field, and the middle field is not level. So I guess I don't know what kind of examples of what people would be renting or having a permit for sports activity in Lacey Park.
There is a softball diamond or a baseball diamond in the middle of the field. If you recall, there's a backstop. There was a softball league that was taking place there. And they would pay that sports use fee. So that's one example of a group that could use that field or that space to do something like that, not to run a league anymore. I think that was kind of it kind of escaped the grasp. It's not something that we would allow. The flying balls in the afternoon is not a good idea there.
Not
So-
not for events, but
Yeah.
maybe drills. and preconditioning work if they wanted a designated space,
Right.
you know, like a soccer team or, and I know for a fact that San Marino High School permits with us for their cross-country meets, and we use that line item for them
Yeah.
for their cross-country meets. And then
You do get individual coaches that want to train with a bunch of little quarterbacks that are, you know, wanting to improve on their football skills, for example, or soccer, those types of individuals.
yeah, that's like
Yeah.
conditioning and yeah, sports conditioning, not necessarily for an actual game or event or anything like that. I
Yeah.
don't know how many, we could get back to you on how many of these permits we do every year, but I know
Not very
we do a handful though.
Yeah.
It was established for a reason. It's not because we have quality athletic fields or anything, because that doesn't really exist.
So then what's
But
the,
it is an open grass space.
so then there's a park group activity permit and a sports activity permit. Then the park group activity permit is more, what's the, I guess, the difference? And then is there,
The
Does it-
park group is when they get like a picnic area for birthday parties, those types of reservations. So they get the facility the entire day. So, you know, the residents would pay $145 to get some of an area with benches for their picnic, and then non-resident rate would be the next column over. And so that's like an all-day birthday party type of birthday party is the easiest example.
Yeah, a large
Okay.
grass area,
Gathering.
multiple tables.
They're
you
not
know,
doing,
probably up to how many people, you know, 50, 100.
yeah,
and you would reserve those spots?
Yes,
We
yes,
do.
we have designated, we don't have the map in front of us, but we have designated park use areas,
correct.
picnic areas that people rent, and there's some that are designated for smaller groups and some that are designated for larger.
And I'm assuming those are very popular, at least from my.
Extremely
Yeah.
popular. Yeah, when our coordinator is, you know, she has a lot of duties, Victoria, as you might know, is such a hard worker. But it takes a lot of her time because here comes the season for the rentals and we're booked. And you see the rate again, the non-resident fee, it might seem high, but it's full to maximum capacity during the summer and the fall, during those times of the month, the year, where we're really busy with those rentals.
Right.
Yeah.
So if I use those benches as table tennis, can I call it a sports activity?
Sure.
And then one other question on the park closure fee. It's $1,400 and loss of revenue. I don't know, for some reason, it's just, I guess, number one, how do you define park closure?
That's when, if they are seeking to.
You guys just froze.